I call the meeting to order. We properly noticed.
The meeting was posted according to law.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Duda.
Here.
Trustee Harding.
Here.
Trustee Moody.
Here.
Trustee Nugent.
Here.
Trustee Seeger.
Here.
And Trustee Wisniewski is excused.
Give me 1 second. Sorry. All right, we'll do citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the village board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the village board, whether on the agenda or not. The village board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of the citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or specifically allowed by a majority vote of the village board due to involvement in an agenda item. Got a bunch of no's on that. All right. I will close citizen participation. We'll move on to consent agenda. One motion and a second will approve all the following items. Any item may be pulled on list and voted on separately.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Beach.
I'll second that.
Wow, and he loses out in the second. All right. Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We'll do item 1, miscellaneous business discussion and possible direction to staff regarding requests to reconsider allowing ATV/UTV traffic within the village. No packet materials. So we have a resident who came before us, I'd say about a month ago, and asked, that we reconsider this. This is something that the board last considered back, I think, in November of 22 when the county changed the ordinances. So it's been a while since we've picked this up. And I would say up until this resident, at least those who have reached out to me individually, have all been non-residents who have been interested in driving ATVs or UTVs in the village. But now we have a resident who's asking us to reconsider that. And, we're not going to make any, decisions tonight because we don't have any ordinances or resolutions in front of us for that. But this is for discussion. And I know many of you have talked to residents and have feedback. So whoever wants to go first, I will try to moderate the discussion.
What I'm hearing from people when I've chatted with them is they're not really interested in having them within the village just because of the traffic patterns, busier use, just concerns about safety. That's the biggest concern. Going back to AT stands for all-terrain, which is people think of as more outdoors, out in fields and things. So that's what I've been hearing.
Been hearing similar things as far as the word all-terrain, age limits, safety protocols, and just the recent influx of motorized transportation incidents in the town and the village and surrounding municipalities. As far as adding another type of vehicle when we're getting kind of a lot of incidents where people are getting severely hurt. I'm not saying the people that would drive these would be like that, but just it gives me, makes me anxious about the thought of it. But yeah, I've spoken, regrettably, the folks that said they were going to come tonight to speak out against it couldn't make it, but decent amount of folks have expressed their concerns and wishes to continue to oppose.
After we talked about it last time, I kind of looked it up. We're about one of the only municipalities in Walworth County that doesn't allow it. So I'm just wondering how all the other municipalities are like monitoring it and doing it, and we can't.
Chief, do you have any insight into that?
Brian's correct. We might be one of the last ones in Walworth County that do not have. They all have different ordinances. Some of them for the UTV, you have to be 16 and have a driver's license. Some of them you have to be 18 and have a driver's license. Like Village of Walworth does not allow the ATVs, but they allow the UTVs. So I mean, it's all over. You kind of make your own ordinance on what rules you want to put in place and what you want to enforce. So like you can take a look at all the municipalities that allow it in Walworth County, and every ordinance is a little different. And then some of them have some streets that they're not allowed on. So if you allow it, you kind of make the rules. And then if you don't, then we just move on like we are right now. So
Are there any restrictions like hours too, like maybe from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. to avoid like at night?
usually it's until like 9 or 10 p.m. Yeah. So
So when this originally came up, I was against it. I didn't think that it was something that we really needed in our community. I felt like it was more of a rural identification. And back then, when I did make those comments, I also made it clear that I also have ATVs and UTVs. I ride them often. I have them up north, though, on my land in the north woods. As I think about it more, talking about restrictive hours, the one UTV that I have, it's got headlights, it's got turn signals, it's got brake lights, it's got everything that a car does. I've got windows, I've got air conditioning in it. It's not a off-road vehicle as some have thought of. They're much more advanced than that now. Most of them that you ride on, that you see in the municipalities, they have street tires on them. They're not even like mud tires, because that's what you do. You put those street tires on so you can ride around on the roads. I was at the East Shore or the Elkhorn Food Truck Festival and noticed a number of UTVs parked in the parking spots, just like the cars were. And it didn't change anything. With them being such advanced machines, the UTVs at least, it is just like having a car on the road to me now. And if it comes before us again, and we're going to start talking about maybe allowing for this, I would probably go the opposite direction now. I would probably say yes. I took a picture of one of the vehicles parked in the municipal lot for Elkhorn, our county courthouse area. And it didn't look odd or out of place. And like Brian mentioned, we are the only municipality in Walworth County that does not allow for UTV riding on the streets. And there's all kinds of restrictions that the DNR puts on it already, with and they've come out with new restrictions as well, age limitations, where and how fast you're able to ride those UTVs on the roads. So it's just, to me, I think I'd be in favor of it at this point.
So are you kind of distinguishing between UTVs and ATVs too?
I think you would. I think I would say that a UTV would be a more appropriate vehicle on our roads than an ATV. And if we had to decide on some restrictions, I would go that way. I would say that it would be a UTV and not an ATV use on our roads.
Chief, in some of my conversations, and I tried to elaborate, but I think it'd be helpful for people to understand. They see people driving the golf carts, they see the hot carts business over by the grocery store. Could you kind of elaborate on from kind of the legal aspects of those and why those are allowed, and we're not really talking about the golf cart aspect here?
well, those golf carts meet certain federal standards to be on the road, but they only go I don't know what their top speed is, but they can't go on any road that's over 35 miles per hour. They're not allowed. But we have seen more and more of those here in the village. And I mean, to Scott's point, I don't know what the difference is between those and UTVs, except for those are considered legal by federal standards. There must be some things missing from the UTVs that don't meet the federal standards. So, but I mean, we have quite a few of those golf carts now around. I probably saw 4 different ones just this weekend. So
What's the difference in terms of, Scott mentioned some of the DNR rules. So let's take a UTV that's not, that, let's say, just doesn't meet those federal guidelines, whatever those might be. Is there any other enforcement difference, like around DUI or anything like that on the roads?
it would be a DNR violation with the UTVs, which you'd write it as a DNR violation. It wouldn't go on their driving record.
Even though they're on a public road?
Yeah, it doesn't go on their driving record. As far as I know, it's a DNR violation. But from what I've heard is that you can seize that vehicle and contact the DNR and they might come down and pick it up. So, I mean, they don't like it when it happens. So they have they will step in from what I've heard sometimes if you contact them. So,
Has that happened for?
but if it involves an accident and somebody's hurt, I know that we had the one on 20 and ES a couple of years ago, and they did charge that criminally because the female that was riding in it was hurt, and he was charged OWI injury. So
it can escalate, but
it can escalate.
but not if like they're swerving and you pull them over and give them a breathalyzer, no accident.
As far as I know, it's a DNR violation. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any do we have the ability to regulate that through our ordinance to not make it a DNR violation, to make it a
That I
vehicle
don't. I'd
violation?
have to check in on that. I don't know.
O'Connell County, where I do ride mine, the way it's stated there is that if you're on the road and you get pulled over for a DUI or a car accident or a vehicle accident, it's handled as on your regular license, but it's on the trails that it would be then a DNR violation. That's O'Connell County.
I think it's how you write your ordinance. If you adopt Chapter 346, which covers all rules of the road in Wisconsin. So I think if you adopt that in your ordinance, then you should be able to write it.
I would just say from the residents that I spoke with, I'd say about 80% were not in favor of it for some of the reasons that Mary and Dan cited. I'd say about 20% were in favor, and they would like to do it. Many of which own ATVs or UTVs. They'd like to ride them. I think safety was the big thing. Noise, the other. I did chat with Joe a little bit. He couldn't be here tonight. He's traveling for work. He kind of was like, I'm kind of on the fence. He'd like to understand some of the safety profile options that we have, but also his concern was noise. And he's been out riding, his bike, and he's heard people with off-road tires and how loud those can be. So I think that's the feedback that I've received so far.
I take your point, Scott. I think that I've driven ATV. I use it up at Alpine, and I do agree they are more sensible on the street, more safe. They're like the newer ones are safer and have more equipment with it and they're enclosed with all the headlights and everything. So that would come off safer than an ATV. I will say, like, Matt, I think you just said it, like, people want to ride theirs around, so I'm wondering what the ratio is of joyriding one versus taking one to get groceries. And it's the same as like people who get a motorcycle want to go fast on that, so they don't really get a chance to do that around here. So I'm just like, as I weigh the pros and cons, I think about what it would look like if someone was joyriding around. Would that be, there's not a lot of streets to go 45 miles an hour or faster if they can, get up to that much. I will say, not to pile on the no, but I did have a handful of town residents that also emphatically said no, and just saying that they have been living with ATVs and UTVs being allowed over there for some time.
Here then,
That I was about to ask, what's the pleasure of the board? Because, so right now, it is not allowed under village ordinance. As I said, that's what we last discussed this in November of 22. We can choose to do nothing. Do nothing's always an option. We can choose to say, no, we're not going to change anything, and we're not going to talk about this for another insert number of years and pass a resolution that says that. We can do, we're going to allow it and adopt some basics from other municipalities. We could do a hybrid. So I think, we kind of have the freedom to do what we want. We could say UTVs only, ATVs no. Right? We could say UTVs only, ATVs no, and UTVs must meet these specifications. And, I would say for me personally, if we were to go down this path, I would want, if someone, had a moving violation, that it's not treated as a DNR violation. So it's treated just like any other vehicle on a public road. So I think that's where, if you got, staff will need direction as to if we want them to draft something.
What about if we did something like a committee of the whole and invited the public in for a discussion about it? That would give everybody on both sides an opportunity to have their voices heard. And then we could make a decision on whether, our judgment is made on what the majority of the people want.
I was going to go the same, kind of a similar direction, but looking for somebody who's advocating to bring a proposal to us, say UTVs, ATVs, where they would be allowed, where they wouldn't be allowed. Let some of our citizens come up with some ideas for us to consider. Well, we're smart people, but other people might have some ideas, particularly if they're passionate about it, to come up with a proposal.
So do we want to say a committee of the whole with this for what meeting date? Or do you want this to be the only topic at that meeting?
I'm fine with that, whatever the president decides.
Oh. Okay.
Can we treat this like the varnish? I would say not not the meeting right after 4th of July, because that would be potentially a lot of people traveling. I would say whatever that date is. Sorry, I'm trying to get. Yes, thank you.
And Chief, the more information you can get to us too about the differences, what you're seeing, would be very helpful.
Okay.
Just what you needed, one more thing to do.
No, I'm good. That's good. Gives me a lot of time, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think too, like maybe you talk to the town chief, if they were to redo this again, to some of the comments Dan said, what would they do differently? And I will see the town chairman tomorrow night, and I can ask them, if they were to revisit this topic, what would they do differently? So, okay. All right. So we will do a committee of the whole on the agenda for July 20th. So can we post that to social media as we get closer? Just we can see if we can get some in-person feedback. All right.
Matt,
Okay.
then talking about, is the chief gonna bring some options, or could staff? I know, Jeremy, you sent me a couple options that other municipalities had, but just wondering, I think it would be great for context to see, maybe the town one, but just a starting point for where we would go if we did end up adopting something, just so we're not sort of fishing ideas.
Yeah, and I think if we are going to revisit this, I think there is, and village boundaries may change in the future, but one area where this did become a kind of a hot button issue between us and the town was over by Quick Trip, people wanting to ride ATVs and UTVs in to get gas at the station. And I'm not sure I personally have a problem with that. It's right there on the edge, and it makes sense, right? So I think clarifying those types of, sorry, not pun intended, but edge cases, where if people are doing things like that, that makes sense. I think residents I've spoken with are more concerned about in residential areas or, at the bars on the square, things like that. Those were the two main areas that people were concerned with. So yeah, I think if there's a mix of, maybe some ordinances from other communities here in Walworth County, but especially the two towns, what they allow or don't allow, I think it'd be really weird if we were, if they were very permissive and we were very, very restrictive, but still allowed something like that might lead to confusion. So I want to make sure we try not to have too much confusion.
I know that people have ridden from the town of Troy on the west side of the village up to Gus's, because I've driven by and seen a UTV at Gus's, and I stopped in and talked to them. And they said, well, we just wanted to go to Gus's. And they were going right back out west. They're like, we're not going into the village. We just wanted to go to Gus's, grab something, and go right back out. And I have trouble saying you can't do that. I mean, they're not causing any issues. They're going an eighth of a mile into the village just to grab something to eat, and then they're going right back out. They're not going in to the village. So
Yeah, so if I think you could just bring us a few examples that, as you talk to the other chiefs here in Walworth County that you feel are good examples, then we'll take a look at those and then we'll have the committee of the whole and get citizen input. Sound good? All right, thank you very much. All right, item 2, requests for no parking, West Street, safety concerns. Chief?
we were contacted by a resident on Wetland Way, the condos back there. She had some concerns due to the business on the corner of Main and West Street parking cars on the street. And she was when she comes up to the stop sign there, she has to pull out into traffic a little bit to be able to see. And then also she had the concern that she almost saw a head-on accident because the car going south on West Street had to go into the other lane of traffic to get around the cars that were parked there. And a car came up on South Street to make the right turn on the curve there. And they almost hit head on. So she just would like no parking on that 80 feet from the back driveway of the business to Wetland Way. And so I told her I'd bring it to the board for consideration based on what she sees and what I saw. There were a couple vehicles parked there when I met with her, and I could see her concern with not being able to see traffic coming that way at the stop sign. She said it mostly just happens Monday through Friday when Saturday when the business is open. She said there seems to be cars parked there. And so she just was asking for that, just that 80 feet of area to be no parking.
It's the opposite side of the street.
The
No
opposite side of the street is all no parking.
And there's no curb there, right?
There's no curb.
Are those vehicles being parked there like customers or employees of that business?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay. Did you have a conversation with the business?
No, I didn't.
I think that does actually make sense because that's where the buses turn going north to go park after they drop off the kids. So meaning it's a high traffic area. So to clear it up would make sense.
I mean, I've driven through there when there's cars parked there. It's tight. I don't know. Is that standard width, Jason, there? Do you know?
Pavement is, yes, but there's obviously no curb and gutter or anything. But yeah, it is two lanes, but really not with parking lanes, two passable lanes.
Yeah, and that's a tight angle to turn and keep it to that.
Yeah, because it's more than a 90-degree corner, or I should say less than a 90-degree corner, there's a visibility concern. And I think it's really a matter of one sign that's no parking here to corner.
Yeah, I would say, so we have to do an ordinance change for that, right?
Affirmative, yeah. So I would bring it back on either July 6th or the July 20th meeting, whenever the attorney can write up the ordinance change. Or just, I think it's just an addition to, yeah, we're just adding that 80 feet.
Yeah, I would just, I think, yeah, bring that back, but maybe just if you could have a conversation with that business owner so that they're not surprised, that they understand, and if they've got concerns, then they have a chance to come voice those.
Okay.
Are we good with that? Okay. Onward. Item 3, library presentation, operational cost study.
Hello again. All right, in your packets, you have the operational cost study that we talked about the last time that I was here. When I worked with JT Library Planning, my biggest concern was with scheduling for a building that's not only larger, but has a dedicated circulation desk, which we don't now. The way it works now is staff is at their workstations and somebody gets up and helps the patron. I was also interested in seeing an option where I'm not the only full-time employee, particularly having one of the younger librarians kind of easing into a position where maybe I can leave at some point after the new building. So that is one of the options there. He actually gave us several options for staffing, for scheduling, and with that being, of course, the high-end one, but other ones working down to bare bones. So some flexibility there. The other end, of course, is the building itself, which we got from the architect. That was a bit staggering. The projected electrical costs for that was something like $34,000 a year, and that doesn't include heat. That's just electric, which I'm not really sure where those numbers come from. Then you'll see he has some recommendations in there. For staffing, he talks about expanding the hours of that one particular staff member, which actually we are doing for next in the 2027 budget without increasing costs. There have been some other changes in our staff that has reduced some hours for people that are more expensive and things like that. So we're able to do some of that, still keeping her below 28 hours. So we're not talking about health insurance or anything like that. The library board had already talked about solar panels, which if you look at, so he had staff recommendations and he also had building recommendations, and solar panels was one of those, which we were already considering. And we'd already started looking into grants to fund those in order to defray that cost as much as possible. And one of his other recommendations was an endowment fund, which we are pleased to officially announce today. We have a donor that gave us $1 million to start an endowment fund. The policy as written, right? I know, isn't that amazing? And we didn't go out and look for it. In December, I received an email I thought was spam because I'd received several emails like, we want to invest are you looking for capital for your building? How about the businesses in your building? And thank goodness I was a teacher because I recognized the name. And I was like, oh, I called their niece and said, is this for real? Are these people real? Is this the right phone number? And it was. And they wrote out the check and Eileen deposited it in May. The policy that the board has written to oversee that is to protect the principal and only spend like 3% of the earnings, so that if it's a lean year and the earnings are less than 3%, we've built up some money there to compensate for that. The policy also states we won't touch it while we are in the process of considering or building a new building. Once that has either happened or been abandoned, then we'll open up the policy again for discussion to see what to do with that funds. But in the meanwhile, then that would give it time to grow. So are there any questions then? I think that's everything I wanted to say about the operational cost study. Were there any questions?
What did
Okay.
they assume as a growth rate on utility rates? Or was that in there?
That wasn't in there. JT Library Planning's focus was really on staffing.
Okay.
And from HDA, we only got the one flat price.
Okay, I see that they had a growth rate of about 3% on wage increases. Okay.
Yes, which has been standard the past few
Yep.
years.
And that's about what we use. So, okay.
We follow your lead.
Sorry, one last question.
Mhm.
And I remember at one point we talked about there was supposed to be like, forget whether we're in a new library or not. Like there's certain state rules that about coverage and staffing levels and things like that. And we've not been able to meet that due to our budget. Like
There's
this
standards that are suggested.
standards. Okay.
Yes, they're suggested. So there's different levels, different grades, and we don't meet them, partially because of the size of our building, partially because they are a bit outdated. Like they have in there how many magazines you should offer in print. And nowadays that's what Libby is for, because you can get yours online now. But it's also like the size of our building, there's only so many more books we can add to that collection. I seriously thought I could not fit another shelving unit into the building, and then I bought a display one that moves. If it has wheels, it's more flexible. So yes, with a new building, we would have more space for things like that. And hours has also been an issue. When Jeff was working with the Tri-Troy agreement, the state's feedback was that we need to increase our hours.
And so this model would do that? Would meet
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yeah, it largely with expanding on Saturdays. And then I think the discussion, would we, the Monday through Friday hours haven't really changed. It expanded the Saturday hours, which I think is a good thing. Our Saturday hours right now are very limited. And that it makes us more flexible for people who work during the day.
I did have a quick question.
Mhm.
You got these options 1 and 2, and it says the 2029 library wages and benefits, 354,224. How much staff does that cover? Or how many people are actually working?
That is with the idea of a 3-year timeline on a new building. And so one of his recommendations was to get us up to the 5 full-time equivalents. So right now we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 4, with me being the only full-time person, and then I have 6 staff. And again, the luxury package was having a second full-time person, which means all of those benefits that go along with it. Okay. Before we move on, another update. So along with me is Christina Murphy, who's our president, and Santa Consiglio, who's one of the trustees. Santa and I are the co-chairs for the fundraising committee. The library did sign an agreement with the East Troy Area Community Foundation for them to manage any funds that we raise so that it's not mixed in, and confusing with it being the village that's taking care of that or anything like that. And they have, they've agreed to do it at no cost to us. So they're not taking any managerial fees from that. Any money they collect, they will grow for us and give back. So that is exciting. We're looking at our unofficial timeline is 5 years, the official one 10, but nobody likes that one. So we're hoping 5 years and then and to fundraise at least 50% of the money that would be required either through direct donors or from grant money. So we have some people on our fundraising committee who's have experience in looking for grants and some people that have experience in writing them. So the next time you'll see me here should be when I ask you for maybe setting aside some land for us.
Mary, anything you want?
Yes, and granted, I have a bias. But this has been
A supporting position.
Thank you for clarifying, yes. But this has been a very thoughtful process, even going from using some of the funding that was impact funds for looking at a variety of things, going out and seeing other libraries, the operations fund, looking at that. It's been very thoughtful. Also, there's a real passion. Santa's leading it. Stay away from the woman. She'll get money.
Oh,
from
no,
you.
no,
I
no,
know.
no, no.
I'm sorry. No.
Go buy her,
No.
please.
No, I mean, there are people, I think, having lived in this community a long time and talked about a library, this is the first time I've really had a feeling this is going to happen, that they're going to find people, they're going to find organizations, business to motivated to make it happen. But there's a real realism. I mean, we talked, what library took 10 years? Was it
Dodgeville.
Dodgeville?
They're planning on, they worked with HGA. That was kind of the big selling point with HGA. They talked about Dodgeville, similar community, similar struggles. They stayed with them for 10 years from the initial meetings to breaking ground last year, I think in September. And the other day I saw through the listserv for Wisconsin Public Librarians that they are posting for 2 full-time positions because they are opening, their grand opening is in October.
We're being pragmatic. We
Mhm.
know this isn't next year, we're going to put a shovel in the ground. But at some point, going to make it happen. You also, some very difficult decisions that the village has some other priorities, EMS. What else? There's the school referendum. There's other things that are going to be competing for money.
The water tower, the fire department, that you have big items on your plate. And well, we're not going to compete with the fire department. So we want our timeline to kind of fit in with something that isn't too onerous.
And I think too, we see the results of this fall's election. We're going to have significant change in our representation in Madison. So we've got some retirements, and I know we weren't able to get the Department of Revenue, the revenue recognition laws changed to make it easier for us to form that tri-Troy. So we have a larger pool to draw from there. So I think, we continue that press after the election and see how it goes. Okay.
I'm just grateful for the leadership you're giving us, Tammy. Without you, I don't think we would, as well as on the boards people, but Tammy's really.
I have a phenomenal board and Jeff did a lot of the legwork. So it's like been building for a long time.
I think I want to echo what you said, Mary, that we have somebody who's really stepped up with $1 million contribution for an endowment, and we have a group of people who are willing to run the financials for us to actually do a capital campaign. We never were close to any of that.
No.
In my 10 years on this board, and I started out with many of you out at the library,
Yes.
we were never anywhere like this. So you guys have done a lot of work, and I know we don't want it to be another 10 years. But thank you for taking the long view of things. All right. Thank you. And thanks for putting this together too. That gives us, what we're shooting at. And I think if we do end up longer, we may want to just refresh these
Right.
numbers with,
Right. We'll probably want to refresh a lot of things,
Okay.
but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right. Item 4, consider Plan Commission recommendation to approve conditional use amendment application for an outdoor commercial entertainment use to increase the number of special events allowed, include the use of a tent in the parking lot for shade in lieu of a previously approved pavilion, and to amend the indoor and outdoor sale and consumption of alcohol and an associated site plan amendment on the LD's barbecue property located at 2511 Main Street, bearing tax parcel number RA5011000001, Leon Davis. The Barbecue Pit LLC applicant, Brad Jones agent, application 2026-06. This was recommended for adoption at last week's Plan Commission.
Do I have to repeat the whole motion?
No.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the conditional use amendment for LD.
I'll second that.
Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Took me longer to read it than it did to pass it. Item 5, consider approval of revised alcohol license premises description for LD's Barbecue Pit LLC, Brad Davis agent, pending approval of and relative to the conditional use permit and the Fourth Amendment. So that this is just to keep both documents in line.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised alcohol license premise description for LD's Barbecue.
I'll second it.
All right, questions or discussion?
I just want to thank you for having LD's, everything you've done in that spot, and that it's become a real, you're on TV. They know about it, but thank you for all the effort over the years for bringing that to our community.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I work with a lot of people in Milwaukee. They're like, "Oh, LD's." Like, yeah. So your name is well known. Thank you. All right, staff reports. Item 1, Municipal Court, May 2026. Any questions there? We had what was the issue we had with it, or was that still the system issues, or was that the upgrade that I'm thinking?
Are you asking about the software issue where the tickets weren't transferring and she was having to do everything manually? Jeremy, that's been resolved and it's working, correct? Now we're just waiting for the migration of the software. I think I've said this previously. We want to go to a new system, but the system is migrating to all hosted services, and they're prioritizing shifting their existing customers to hosted before they take on any new customers. So hopefully in early next year, we'll be able to transition her to that software.
All right. Committee reports. Item 1, Plan Commission meeting draft minutes from June 8th. We approved 2 things from there. And at the July meeting, Orrin will bring back some proposed ordinances around some other changes. So that should be coming to the village board at some point, probably in August. Item 2, East Troy Library Board meeting minutes from May 12th. Anything else, Mary, that we haven't discussed already?
No, I think we hit the high points.
Any questions for Mary? No? Okay. Have you... I thought it was coming, so... Yeah. We'll pause for a few minutes. We're We don't have legal counsel. If he's not available, we won't be able to do the closed session. So we'll just hang out for a few minutes. All right. Now that we have legal counsel, I will move to go to closed session under Wisconsin Statute 1985 1G to confer with legal counsel as to strategy regarding litigation in which the village is or likely to become involved pertaining to its Liz pendants for parcel RA 526000001, formerly RXUP 00256.
Second.
A roll call vote, please.
President Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee Harding,
Yes.
trustee Duda,
Yes.
trustee Moody,
Yes.
trustee Nugent,
Yes.
trustee Seeger.
Yes.